Good evening, everybody. It is Straight Talk Food for the Soul. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm trying to let my guests in. How's everybody's weekend been going? I love everybody. This is Straight Talk Food for the Soul. I have an amazing guest tonight, and we're waiting for her to come in, and she is coming in now. Hello. And you're a little blurry. You're a little blurry. I can't really see you that well. It's not really clear. But while she's trying to do what she's doing, tonight our topic is going to be how to raise a sick child and having balance. Janice, there you go. There we go. There we go. And our scripture tonight is Isaiah 41 and 10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. God has promised us his strength. He will never give you a trial you are unable to handle. So when I think of this, I don't know if anybody knows, this is my daughter that's going to be on tonight. And I chose this topic because I don't know how many people are challenged by raising a child who is sick. And Janice has been sick. She's been sick. She started getting sick when she was 3 years old. One day we were in our apartment. At that time, I only had I maybe only had two children. And Janice walked down the hallway and she said, "Mommy, my head hurts." And her head was swollen, her temples. And she looked like an alien. Her head was so big. And I was like, what is going on? And that was like on a Sunday. That Monday, I got in to see her pediatrician. Her name was Dr. Sultan. Amazing, amazing doctor. Great pediatrician. And that's where our journey started. Good evening, Pastor Burl. Thank you for coming tonight. Janice, I just want you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit, and then we're gonna go on with we're gonna have some definitions. So, but you introduce yourself to the people first. You're mute.
Hi, everybody. I'm Janice, also known as Bobo to most people. And I am Claudette's fourth child, I think. And yeah, I have been sick since I was 3. So that means it's about over 20 years. It's been about, I want to say like 27 years or so. So yeah, and that's me.
Tell them what you do, though. We want the positive, and there's some challenges, but tell them what you do.
I guess I'm a writer, I'm a poet, and I'm a book editor, and I do a lot of social media things. And I think my writing came from being sick. I never wrote until I was sick. Um, I never had an interest in poetry before I was sick. It was mostly my grandmother, the late great Carolyn Talbert. When I got sick, she brought me when I got sick, I got really quiet and I stopped talking to a lot of people. And she brought me around and she gave me a book and she said, "If you can't speak it, you better write it." So that brought me into my worlds of me writing stories and poetry and things like that. So that's pretty much my biggest ministry is my writing.
We've been having this conversation for years. I think when she was about 9, we were at Thanksgiving dinner, and everything she was already small. They said I'm on mute, guys. Tell me if you can hear me. Some of my guests are saying I'm on mute. Can you guys hear me? I'm not on mute, guys. Y'all put it in the chat. Can you hear me, Janice?
No.
Okay. Now we gotta figure out what's going on. Can you hear me now?
No. Elijah, log on. I still can't hear you. No.
Well, we're doing something a little different tonight. Can you guys hear me now? I am on camera with Janice because something is going on. Back to what we were doing. I know the adversary does not want this story to come out, but we are going to push forward and do it anyway. So, the day I was talking, it was Thanksgiving. Janice was 9 years old and she got really, really sick. She ate about 1,000 pieces of turkey that night, but that night when we left, she threw up for 2 weeks. And they didn't know what was wrong. She lost 30 pounds and they put her on the cancer ward in Eggleston here in Atlanta. And I don't know. Janice, tell me what you thought, because I didn't know what you were thinking. Tell me what you told me about a month ago, what you were thinking when you were in the hospital.
Oh, well, she didn't know this, but I thought I was dying. I never told her that, and I didn't think it was a big deal until she broke down and told me how big of a deal that was for her. I just remember, I remember being at Thanksgiving. I remember eating. I remember playing with my cousins, and I remember just running around and maybe 3 hours after we ate and we were still just hanging around, I just started feeling really, really bad. And then I started vomiting everywhere. And by that night, we knew something was wrong. And then I went to the hospital, I went to the emergency room, and they kept me there for like, I want to say like 12 hours or so. And then they sent me home, and then we were right back the next day. And then I was stayed, and I didn't leave the hospital for, I want to say like almost 20 days. And I didn't know what was happening, and nobody was really talking to me. I just remember it being like 9 doctors at the foot of my bed and everybody talking over me. And I just assumed that they were there, that I was dying, and that they didn't want to tell me because they didn't want to scare me. So I had just settled with it that, oh, this really bad, and they might not be able to fix me because they didn't know what was happening to me. So I thought it was like the way you see those movies, like little kids in movies when they have like cancer or something, and the parents don't want to tell them, and they don't want to tell them because they don't want to scare a child. And I was only 9, and I had never been like crazy sick. I had like a bunch of asthma stuff, and I had really bad migraines where my head swole. That's what she was talking about when I was 3. But I had never stayed in a hospital overnight, and all of a sudden that was like my permanent residence. So I thought I was dying. And I thought everybody was just trying to spare my feelings. And so I just never said anything. And I felt bad for, I think my mom most of all, because I don't think she ever knew this, but like I would be in a hospital bed and she would be like in the recliner. And when she thought I was asleep, I would hear her crying. And I was just like, oh, she knows she can't fix me. She can't make me no better. So I just thought that was another clue to me that, oh, yeah, you're really not gonna make it. And I can laugh about it now, but back then I just was really quiet with it. And I was just like, why won't anybody just tell me what's wrong with me? And I never knew. It was because they didn't know what was wrong with me. And for years, nobody knew what was wrong with me.
Kind of list your illnesses for everybody.
As I said, I have asthma. I have chronic migraines where my head swells, and I have migraines where I can have a migraine for up to like 2 days for months. I can have one migraine for like 4 months straight and have to be in the hospitalized for a migraine. I have gastroparesis. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have fibromyalgia. I have IBS. I have a corneal ulcer. I also have stomach ulcers, and
a stomach spasm.
I have abdominal spasms that look kind of like a seizure, but it's not. And a couple of other just like little random things like acid reflux and things. But my biggest issues, I would say, are the rheumatoid arthritis, and I have a heart defect where my heart beats faster than it should and stuff like that. So it's a lot of little things that make up a bigger picture.
And I remember going to this foundation because I wanted to take her to Disney World. I had so many kids, we couldn't afford it. And they told me, they denied us. And they said because she wasn't deathly ill, she was not dying. They were just crippling diseases, but it wouldn't kill her. So they said no. And I was really, really sad because Janet spent a lot of time in her bedroom with black curtains, everybody being quiet. And her journey, going to school was a journey. She might have done 6 weeks out of each year. So she had to be homeschooled by teachers, which I had one fired because she was really good. But then I still had other children. And that's where the balance part comes in, where I had a tribe of people at church. A tribe. Deacon Darrell, Deacon Ishman, Carmela, Rhonda, Marika, Lady Embry, Bishop, Apostle Pascal, Lady Pascal, Bishop Jones, Lady Jones. Who am I leaving out?
So many people. My whole home church was always there for me. I've never not thought somebody was praying for me. I've never had that feeling. People came to a hospital. I've never spent more than 2 days in the hospital without seeing somebody from my church or my family, my aunt Sharon and Angela, my uncle Carlos, which is one of my biggest supporters, because I couldn't go to school. When she says I had homeschool, I think people think that like a bunch of teachers come out and things like that, but the way I had hospital homebound. So homeschool wasn't necessarily a choice like most parents choose to homeschool their children. So they would send a teacher out and she would come for like 1 or 2 hours, and she would come maybe 1 day a week, sometimes twice if I really needed it. And she would just try to fit in everything between those hours. So the rest of the things I just did on my own, and I would just turn them into the school. The only time I remember like actually having to be at school was like a standardized test. But even after a while, like once I got into high school, even that was done from home. But all of like my uncle Carlos, he tutored me in math. Deacon Thurman tutored me in math. Deacon Jerry tutored me in math. As you can see, math was not my best subject and everything. But everybody at my church, all of my family was really, really supportive. And shouts out to my siblings, because they were my tribe before anybody else was my tribe. So.
And the balance comes in. How was I going to be everywhere with everybody, with soccer, football, choir rehearsals, school teacher meetings at the hospital, plus I had a job? How was I going to a tribe of people? And when my kids had an activity and I could not be there, somebody from my church was at the activity. They knew that somebody in the crowd was going to be there. And I want to shout out to their dad. He worked 2 jobs the whole time we were married. So I had the luxury of leaving my jobs when I had to, so I could be at the hospital with Janice. And Janice spent about 12 years in the hospital, back and forth, sometimes for months on end. And I'm just now finding out, maybe 2 weeks ago, because Janice did a TikTok. And I don't follow most of my children on TikTok, but she let me see her video. And I didn't realize that she felt guilty most of her life because she felt like she had me more than the rest of them. So tell them about your TikTok and why you made the TikTok.
I guess first, it took me 3 months to do this podcast with my mom. I don't really talk about being ill with a lot of people. It was people that knew me my whole life that never knew I was sick, and it was on purpose. So the TikTok, I think it was really significant for me to be able to just to say that I've been sick and I've done this. But my TikTok was about me buying myself what the device we're on right now, which is Kindle. And I know that probably it's a small thing to most people, but I'm a huge reader, and it was something I really wanted, and I kept not buying it for myself. And once I got it, I was just like really, really, I want to say geeked about it. I was really excited about it. And I just was sitting there thinking like, why'd you take this long to buy this? And it was because I have a thing about not buying myself things because I feel like I don't necessarily that I don't deserve them. And so, and I made that in my head from when I was younger, that I took enough time, I took enough attention, I took enough focus, and I definitely took enough finances away from everybody in my family. So and my family never made me feel that way. But I made myself feel like a burden because I just knew how much effort it took to make me well. And well is subjective for me, just because even now, even though I don't spend as much time in the hospital, I still have hospital visits. I still have doctor's appointments every other week, and I still have shots and blood tests and all of that. And I just always require a lot of just
tender care.
I felt like I required so much. So I always just felt like I needed to give always back, especially when it came down to like my family. So I wouldn't buy myself things because I was like, somebody gonna need something this month. And if I buy myself something, then I'm not gonna have it for them. And I would talk myself out of buying things for myself. And my Kindle only cost like $140. Shout out to my little sister who gave me part of the money too. My little sister Jada. Shout out to Jada. But I just wouldn't, and I realized that I wasn't enjoying things because I felt guilty once I had them. So I didn't, and it wasn't anything that anybody ever said it, but I just felt like a burden. I felt like that my mom should have been around for my siblings more. I felt like she should have got more sleep. I felt like that she should have had more in life. And I just felt like my dad shouldn't have had to work 2 jobs. My medicines were expensive. And I just always felt like that I was always taking away from everybody in my life instead of giving anything. So I tended to not give myself things. And so the TikTok that she saw was the one me saying that how I was learning how to do better for myself. I was learning to buy myself things and learning to enjoy things because I do deserve it. Just because I was sick didn't mean that I was a burden. And I like to think that I'm a blessing most of the time. So I'm learning to accept that kind of thing.
And I am back. We're doing it like this, guys, because we're going to get this story out. Something going on with my iPad, but I don't care. I wanted to tell Janice, I saw this thought on Google. You're a person and not a patient. And I think God built me to be her mom. And I don't think I did anything extraordinary. I didn't. I just put the shoulder to the wheel and did what I had to for my children. I appreciate that my children love me, but that was my job. That's what a parent does. They do the work. They take care of their children. They don't forget what God created them to do. So I got a couple of questions. One of my questions is, how difficult was it for you not to be able to go to public school like quote unquote normal children?
It was, I think when I was a kid, when it first happened, I was just like, oh, she can go to sleep. She can sleep in. That lasted about a month. And then I realized it was really, really boring. And it was because it wasn't any, and I didn't have any structure when it came to my work. I went to school, public school, up until about the beginning of 5th grade. And that's when I started to get sick, and I would just be missing weeks at a time, and my grades would be falling, and they was just like, Janice, you can't do it. It became difficult, especially as I got older and especially as we moved different places, because I didn't have friends. I had my cousins, like my friends at church, like people that I knew my whole life, but I never had I didn't get to make friends in the neighborhood because nobody knew who I was. If I would go outside with my siblings, they'd be like, you got another sister? Where did she come from? She like a ghost, like, because I wasn't ever really out the house. So I think those parts of it was difficult, not having a social circle, not interacting. It was some things that kids would talk about, even things now that I'm older and I'll be in a conversation with somebody now and they'll be like, they'll remember something from high school. And I'll be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to football games. And even when I felt well, once I got old enough and I felt well enough, it would be times when I felt well enough to go to something. And then the school said that if I was too sick to come to class, and I was too sick to go to a football game. So when I was old enough to be like, I want to make this decision and try to meet people, it still wasn't an option for me. So that was difficult. It was, the most I remember feeling was I was lonely. I wasn't alone because I have 9 siblings. So it wasn't like I didn't have people around me, but it was nobody. Every friend I had was like a friend from my sibling when I got older. I didn't have any of my own friends besides somebody that I had just known like my whole life, like kids I went to church with. But I didn't have any friends on my own for years. I just felt encased in this bubble, as my father used to say. He said, I should have put you in a bubble when you first got sick. We would have been all right. I felt like I was already in a bubble. That's what it felt like.
Did I do anything when you were a kid to make you feel different?
I don't think you made me feel different. You just let me know I was different. Like it was no, my family's not a family that minces words. We tell you like, you can't, and she would just say, your body's not made like everybody else. You didn't make me feel different. You made me accept that I was different. You didn't let me, and I needed to know it because I would try to go and run around and do everything. And I would be fine for that day hanging out with my friends. Like I want to go to Six Flags. I go to Six Flags, and Six Flags, everybody else, they're like, everybody else is just tired. I'm down for like a week.
No, 6 weeks.
Okay, she's being dramatic.
6 weeks.
But like, I needed to know that like I wasn't like everybody else. And I always felt a little different from other people anyways. It wasn't like a huge thing, but to know my body that my body wasn't made like everybody else, I think that was the biggest hit for me when I first got sick.
I don't know what normal is. I hear people saying that Janice is not normal. None of my children are normal. I just have to say, all of my children are very charismatic, very artistic, loud like their mother.
Speak for yourself.
Out there. So nobody got lost in the shuffle. And I think that's what the balance was. Even when I was at home with the kids, we would have picnics in the living room, cut the fireplace on, put a blanket out. I'd go to the Dollar Tree and buy champagne glasses and mix apple juice and Sprite and have grapes and cheese and crackers with a little jelly. My children thought we were rich.
We did.
How old were you when you found out we didn't have money?
I was in my teens. I thought that, breakfast for dinner was a luxury. I didn't know that breakfast food was just the cheapest food. And I just assumed that we had a lot of money. And I really thought we was rich because I was like, how they affording their medicine? It was like $800 and $900 here. And especially when you add in herbs and home remedies and everything, I just assumed that we must have been balling, but we was balling on a budget.
And I always had to I never really could take the job I really wanted, but I took the jobs that made it where Janice could be with me. I had my own career route, and I had to be in Athens at 8:00 in the morning. I would be at the Bay by 3:30. I took a cargo van, broke the seat down, padded it into a bed, and attached a pillow to it. And Janice would ride with me every single day. I packed the truck. She knew when I stopped at the hospital or the pharmacy or the insurance company to drop their packages off, the door locked. You don't open the door for nobody. You don't talk to nobody. I never cut the van off. And we were off and running. I would be back in the city at the Bay by 1:00. By 2:30, I was at the bus stop picking up the rest of my children. Nothing amazing about it. I was just being a regular mother. Just being and we did a lot of stuff at home. We did camping in the backyard, got tents, and the kids would come over, did the marshmallows, the s'mores. We did everything at home. Because when Janice was away in the hospital, then that means I was away in the hospital. And shout out to my big kids, my big girls, because they were the ones. I ironed everything, had meals set up so that they could just warm it up. They helped the kids get their homework done. Jazz and them became little mamas so that I could be where I needed to be. And that's in the hospital with Janice. She had a team of doctors. And one doctor, when he couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, and I'm going to say his name is Dr. Ifada K. I'm going to say his name. He said she was faking because he couldn't figure it out. That day, he stopped being her doctor. And Janice she's had her colon removed. She gets Botox shots. She gets nerve block shots. She has migraine shots. She has to administer herself. The vitamin D shot she administers herself. We turned into little doctors over here at the house. But I was always wondering if my kids felt left out. We would take road trips, just get in the car and go get a cheap hotel. We all piled up in two beds, and there was a bunch of them. But we had the most fun. Church trips, Janice could go. And every time she got sick, when we got to the hotel, we'd have to put her in the bed, get her food ready, and we would go to service. And I'd leave service, come back and check on her, or her best friend, Shannon or Jessica, would stay at the hotel with her. Danielle would stay at the hotel with her, and we swap off. They go to church sometimes, and I go to church sometimes. So if there are any moms and dads out there that have kids that don't feel good, that are ill, you can make it. You can do this. Janice, it's taken a while, but she's in college. She graduated number 10 in her high school from home. So if any kid says they can't do it, you can do it. You just have to have the mind to do it. Janice, what you taking up in college?
I'm getting my master's and I'm getting my English master's, and I'm getting my my bachelor's in communication. I already have my bachelor's in psychology.
So we're gonna go to some more. Do you feel like you missed out being a sick kid? Did you miss out in life?
I missed out on some things. I'm not gonna, because I hope it's some sick kids watching, and I'm not gonna lie to you and say that everything that your life is gonna be, and we're gonna stop saying normal, that your life is gonna be measured up like everybody else's. I missed out on things like school. Like I said, I didn't go to prom, and it's not a big deal to me now, but when I was younger, I was just like, that was probably something I should have done. That was probably some, and to be honest, I didn't want to go to graduation because I didn't know anybody. So I missed out on some experiences, but when you measure it up to all the strength you gained by knowing you can go through, it doesn't weigh the same. And I mean, I missed out on life things that other people held, that I think I missed out on memories. I think that's what it is. That's the best thing. But I made sure, and my mom made sure, and my dad made sure, and everybody around me made sure that I still had a balance of the good outweighing my bad. But I missed out on some things. I won't lie and say that there was nothing I felt like I couldn't do. It was a lot of things I couldn't do. When you can't leave your bed, and when you can't stand the feel of light on you, and I have a corner ulcer in my eye, and it was times where I was like basically completely blind just in my right eye for months at a time. And I just had to deal. My biggest thing was that I couldn't let those things outweigh. I couldn't let it weigh on me enough to where it put me down, because I felt like then I was letting it win, and all of their work, all of their effort, what are you keeping me well for if I'm just going to turn into a negative person? So I missed out on things, but I never think back about it and be like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. It was just like, yo, that was just something I would have wanted to do.
A big hit was the college you really wanted to go to in New York.
Yeah. As she said, like school was really important to me. It was my only way of feeling like I was on the same level as other kids. So like, even though I didn't have a teacher that was there every day and stuff, I really pushed myself with school because it was the one thing I could do no matter whether I was sick or not. So once I graduated and I got a scholarship to Columbia University, which is a big school for like journalism and writing and stuff like that. And I'm not even gonna lie, I was devastated when I realized I could not go that far. I could not, especially at the age of 18, like going away to college is a big thing for any 18-year-old, let alone someone who is sick. And back when I was 18, I was still learning how to talk to doctors myself. I would have had to change my whole network of doctors, all of my insurance. it would have just been too much. And I was devastated for the whole entire summer, probably up until halfway my first semester into my freshman year. I really let it get to me. I won't lie. I was in a bad place that I couldn't do something. And I think I had learned to not want so much in life when it came to be living outside of my house. I just accepted what I could. And that was like the first time in a long time that I had like really wanted something. And to know I couldn't have it devastated me for quite a while. But then I just had to go back and be like, but you can go to college though. And when I got to college, because classes weren't all day long and stuff, I got to go in class for a lot of my college experience. When I was an undergrad, I got to go in school, and I had to realize, yo, that's a big feat for you. I can make my classes at better times because I'm not always as my best right in the morning. First off, I'm not a morning person anyways, but even more so, if I've had a rough night, then trying to go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning was just not feasible for me. So when I could make my own schedule and things like that, and I could go and be around people, it was amazing. And I think that's probably why I stay in school now, because it's the one thing that keeps my normalcy. I probably will go to school forever. Just,
oh Jesus,
my daddy told me it's time to stop. But it's just, I've always enjoyed learning in school. And so when I couldn't go away to school, I won't lie, it was rough, but I made it past it, and we're still doing it. And I don't have to leave to feel like I accomplished something. And that was a hard thing to learn, but I did.
I brought that up because Janice has she says, Mom, you never just let me sit, and I don't have the right to be upset. She get 5 minutes, and she hates when I say 5 minutes. And something I want to tell some moms and dads, don't let your children stay in a dark place. Just, you got to figure out what it is that'll help them. And she's 32 now, so she'd be like, Ma, I need this minute. Please leave me alone. I'm not being disrespectful, but I just need a minute. But when she was young, I didn't give her a minute. She had a recliner that would rise up because sometimes she couldn't get up, and she'd sleep in the room with me and her dad. I had to watch her all the time. Me and her would have our little lunches when she was at the hospital. We did our lunches together. Her friends from church would come and play bingo down there with her at the hospital.
They didn't come for me. They came for the prizes. Don't let her tell you. They came for the prizes. They didn't come for me.
The football players would come through and see the sick kids, singers. There was a lot she didn't get, but what I could give her, I did give her.
That was a lot. You did. You gave me a lot, and then we won't roll over it because she keeps saying that she didn't do anything amazing, but she did. Because I made friends at the hospital when I was there, and I know of one particular story where a girl said that she was from foster care, and I was just like, tell me your story. And she said that when she got sick, her mom left her, and her dad was never around. So she did do something, because she could have just said, I'm gonna tap out, and she could have did less than what she was, and she fought every doctor. My case was never done. Even now, if it's a new thing they're gonna try, like, we're gonna try it the next time when my mama can come. She has always fought for me. When, like she said, she got one of those teachers fired. The lady was failing me because she wasn't teaching me. And she went to the school board and said, this place will be named after my child. That's my mom's favorite line. And she says that for all her children. She'll go up there. So it was never, she was doing things more. She was doing great things. And that's just not just for me. All of my siblings, my mom lived at the school with us. And that was even when I was going to school, when I was younger, before I got like crazy sick. When she wouldn't even sign in the principal in the front office. I would just hear security guards say, Miss Robinson's on the building. Miss Robinson's in the building. I'd be like, oh, everybody sit up. My mom ain't here. Like my mom was always there. She has gone above and beyond. I won't say that she's not a regular parent. She is extraordinary. I feel like she's extraordinary because what she did for me. But I don't want to make it seem like that we're putting her on a pedestal. But she did amazing things, and she made me feel like I could touch the world when I didn't think I could. Because everything I was doing was from a computer or over the phone, and she brought the world to me. And she put a book in my hand, which was the greatest gift that anybody has ever given me, because I couldn't go out in the world and do things and see things. And she gave me the gift of finding 1,000 worlds. I go through 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 books when I'm really in it a week. I go through books like nobody's business, and I'm always trying to grasp some part of the world that I didn't get to experience, or that I don't know if I'll ever get there. And she gave me that gift. She said, if you can't get it, you can feel it. And I felt everything. She taught me how to accept what life was, but not to settle for what I did, not to settle for less. I never settled for just being the sick kid. It's why I tried so hard in school. The teacher would tell me what chapter they were in the class, and I would always make sure I was 2 chapters ahead. She showed me that just because people look at you differently doesn't mean that you are less. And that's some of the biggest things I've learned. She did do amazing things. It's things that any loving mother would do, but they were amazing things, Mom. Like, we're not going to downplay the greatness that you brought to any of my siblings. So yeah.
I did leave out somebody, Mama J and Papa. I don't want to forget my adopted parents. They were there. She had a daycare. And so I could be with the kids. I took a job at the daycare. I started in the baby room and worked my way up to assistant director. But I could be with my kids all the time. I was there when they ate breakfast, when they went off to school, and Janice could go to daycare. She had pre-K, first grade, second. Janice was at school. What was your teacher's name?
Oh,
Tammy.
Oh yeah, Miss Tammy.
Osborne.
Miss Tammy was my favorite. Miss B, Miss Parks. I remember the teachers I had. I remember even in high school when they were just coming for the couple hours. We had some really good teachers. I had some really good people there.
Parnell.
Oh, that was my first homeschool teacher. He was the greatest ever. I had some really good teachers that were part of my tribe, as she says. I had some really good teachers.
What things do you desire to do now because of the pandemic? And Janice cannot get vaccinated because her immune system cannot take it. And last year in January, me and Janice, her grandmother, and her auntie, we all got COVID. I was sick for 10 weeks. My mom was sick for about 2 months, but Janice was sick almost 6 months. So she can't, she got to double mask up a lot of times. If we're around someplace and there's a lot of people, automatically you're going to see Janice disappear. Because she just knows what she has to do. So, and I'm not the hovering kind of mom, but I am looking out for her. And I know eventually she's going to move out the house. She's going to get her own place. And she's going to live on her own. I'm asking God for John the Baptist's brother for a husband. So to the parents that have sick kids, there were some nights I was exhausted. I was so tired. Janice would fall asleep. Somebody from the church or one of her friends would come to the hospital. I'd go home, wash clothes, try to act like I was being with my husband, try to pay attention to him, try to do stuff for church. I had a business. I was exhausted. But I never let my job of being a parent go lax, because she didn't ask to come here. None of my children asked to be born. And no matter what situations we had, We had to make them work. So you guys don't give up in your parenting. But something I tell a couple of my younger friends, when you become a mom and a dad, sometimes you have to give up what you want until your kids get a little bigger. There is sacrifice in parenting. And Janice, I think, made the greatest sacrifice than anybody. I mean, there are things I know she wanted to tell me some stuff you really, really want to do now.
I think this is really extra. I've never been a big dater. But I always, and it's something that makes me uncomfortable, not because I'm uncomfortable being in the presence of a man. I'm uncomfortable having to share my story because I've had friends and guys that I won't say I've been in a relationship with, but that I've been talking to, and they'll just say, "You're too much." Mm-hmm. I've had a friend say, I'm tired of being the friend of the sick girl. And so it's really hard to open up to people and tell them that, especially when it's people that I feel like I do my best. And I used to do this a lot when I was younger. I used to try to hide my illness from my friends. So I would be sick with them and not say nothing, because I knew if I said something, they'd be like, well, let's change the plan and let's just do this, or let's just go to the house. And I'd be like, no. And plus they were my happy place. All week I would live in my bed and being sick. So when I got to be around my small amount of friends that I had, I was just like, I'm gonna do everything I can to just to be with them. So I wouldn't say anything. I remember, like, literally, this is a really old story, but I remember us all going out somewhere on a Saturday night. It was dark and I was feeling horrible and I just wouldn't say anything. And I felt the need to vomit. And I literally did not tell them. And I was vomiting in the backseat while they were in the front seat talking, and did not tell anybody because I felt like I was a burden and I didn't do things. So dating has always been a thing to me that was really, really iffy, because when you bring new people around and you know that your circumstances are different, it's a really scary thing. Traveling is also another thing I would always want to do. But when you have a doctor's appointment so often, it's hard to like plan a long trip or go somewhere. And then also you gotta make sure you be able to get your prescriptions. If they only give you your prescriptions every month, what if I want to go away for 2 months? Then I have to figure out that. I have to plan things always so far in advance just to be able to do things. I just want to be spontaneous and just wake up and be like, I want to go this place. But that's not always an option for me. I just want to do this and do that. And you can't always be like that. And I had to really learn how to listen to my body. Because I used to be like, I'm gonna listen to whatever she say. And whatever she say, go. She said, you can't go. Until I was about, I want to say, like, I was probably like 19 then. And she just said, if you want to go, you can go. I went. It wasn't a good idea. I was in hospital for 3 weeks after that, just for going on a 2-day trip, because I did everything under the sun. And I just was like, you got to learn how to listen to your body. I knew I didn't feel well. I knew I shouldn't have been doing it. I should have stayed in the hotel and got more rest and went out a couple of times instead of every time my friends went out. And I had to learn how to listen to my body so that I could learn how to take care of myself on my own. Like she says, one day I'm not going to live with her. And she said that, but I have no issue living with my mother. I want to make that clear, because a lot of people that I meet now, they're like, you still live with your mama? Yep. Yep, sure do. Enjoy it.
And Janice lives with me not just because she doesn't feel well.
It's very true.
When my girls are not married, they're in school or building their career or their business, other nationalities at 18 do not push their children out the door. And I'll just say, for Jewish people, their children normally get their degrees and all this stuff, and they go into the family business and they do all that stuff. And then when they come out on the other side, when they leave home on all fours. They don't have to turn around in a year and come back home because they didn't have finances. So all of my children have had the option. If I got carpet, they got a place to stay. And I just think I want to leave some kind of a legacy to my children, and it's not a bill. So I've been building a business forever, but this one I believe is going to stick. I just believe that it's just going to stick. So I want you to give them an example of a sick day. And the reason I want Janice to explain, because people look at her with this all this long, flowing, beautiful hair. She's got this cute little shape, and honey, when she put her little heels on and dress up, she cute.
Okay.
And then when they be like, that ain't the daughter you talking about, the sick, I say, yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. Janice can stay awake for 4 hours, 4 days straight. And if your body, you don't sleep, your body does not regenerate. So anybody got any ideas and anything, y'all put it in the chat and send it to us. I would just like her to just say a day. The other day when you had to sleep in the bathtub.
Oh, the bathtub or the bathroom floor is some good sleep. I don't care what nobody say. No, but I guess we'll talk about that night. My stomach issues were don't allow me to like pass food and things like that. So when I eat, my food sits at the top of my stomach, and so that means that I vomit a lot. And gastroparesis means that your stomach does not empty out. So I'm nauseous. I can be nauseous for like 12 hours a day. And that night, I think I fell asleep. I want to say I took my medicine around like 9:30 p.m. and I fell asleep at 11. I woke up in like terrifying pain at about 1:30 in the morning. And I tried to walk around the house, and then I started vomiting, and then I would go back in my room, then I would need to vomit again. And sometimes you can do a trash can if you want to, but I don't really like that. Just to be honest, that's just my personal preference. Everybody know, don't come in the room if I'm vomiting, and do not
grab her hair and help her.
I don't like that. I don't like when people start patting me down and stuff. So all of my family know, just move to the side. But it was the back and forth of it was so much, and I was getting dizzy that I just went and took some towels, laid them on inside of the tub, and I just slept in there, and I could just lean over, and that could be my whole night. And I didn't go to sleep till about 6:45 in the morning that next morning, and then I wake up, and I never sleep more than 3 hours at a time. My body doesn't sleep straight through. It doesn't matter how much medication you give me. I will wake up in 3 hours, whether I want to or not. I might not get out the bed, but I'm awake. And so I'll wake up, and I woke up, and it was around like 10 o'clock. And then I tried to have some tea, and I had some toast. I took some medicine. None of that stayed down. I started vomiting again, to where my migraine started hitting up. So my head was swollen, and I get a film over my eyes. So it looks like you have like Vaseline on your eyeballs. So it was like, no, you can't, there's no reading at that point, because that's usually my thing that I do when I don't feel well. And it's no watching TV. So I turned on my phone and had the book reading out to me. My sister checked in on me. My stomach started jumping, so I thought I was going to have a spasm. It's just a whole day of things, and those are like episode days, is what I call them. That's not my everyday, but it's like my 4 days a week. But I'm just used to it now, to where it doesn't faze me, till I can get up and I can go to church and be sick at church. I go to work with my mom when I'm well. I can get up and go to work, and nobody will know nothing's wrong until she'll know something's wrong. Because I'm like, I'm sitting to the side a little, I'm rocking. When I don't feel good, I rock. If you see me tapping like this, oh, she don't feel good. She don't feel good. But I can function, but it's just not pleasant. And the thing she was saying earlier about not going to Disneyland, that's not that part of it, but my illnesses are not life threatening, but they're life altering. And it's never a day where I'm not in some form of pain. It might not be on a 10 that day, but it's on a scale. I'm never not in a certain amount of pain. That's when you have chronic illnesses. It's just pretty much your everyday. It's never a day I'm not taking a medication. That's never a thing. There's never a day where I'm not feeling weary or just tired. And when you don't sleep, you don't, like she said, you don't regenerate. But if you go long enough without sleeping, your organs start failing. And that's the biggest thing that my doctors are always careful about. Like, we can't let her get to the point where her other things start shutting down. When you have rheumatoid arthritis, it makes your inner organs, so your inner muscles, like your heart muscles and things like that, it makes those weakened. Most of the other forms of arthritis make like your joints hurt, but it's more of your muscles and your joints on the inside of your body. So I have to be careful about all that kind of things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's rough, but it's my forte now. Like, I can wield it with the best of them. Like, you can know that I'm sick and you cannot know that I'm sick. And I don't feel the need to tell everybody, because people used to say, you lying, they be like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. But I am fine, because this is my form of fine. I don't have to be on your schedule, your scale of pain and everything. I know what I can take and I know when I can't. And when I can't, I just tiptoe in my room. And especially if I'm at a point where I get like a little grumpy, because I try not to. And I know when it's like, I can't move, don't do that. No, but when I know it's getting to a point where it's like, it's heightened to where I'm starting to feel like I can't take it. That's the time when you step away. Because I never feel like just because you're sick means you get to be a nasty person.
Say it one more time.
You don't get to be a nasty person because you're in pain, no matter whether that is emotional pain or physical pain. I don't believe in that. I don't think that you get to just write off the world because your life is hard at that moment. That is not it. And I don't subscribe to that view. And everybody like, oh, it's okay because she don't feel good. No, I need to go back and apologize. I said something that I shouldn't have. I offended somebody. And it's times when I have gotten grumpy and I'll say something to one of my siblings and I'll be like, you know what? I should have walked away. I should have walked away. It's times where it gets a lot, and I have to be very careful about that. And I've always been very careful about making sure my mental weariness does not become my next illness, because I have a lot of them. So let's not add that one to it.
And I'm gonna tell you what I think is the reason why she is the way she is. We had, right before Janice got sick, we had a 7-day revival.
My.
And Janice walked up to me and she was like, I'm gonna get the Holy Ghost. Yes, I was like, okay. Every night she tarried it. I was exhausted. She was like, Mom, go get it, I'm gonna get it. I was like, Lord, I just literally sometimes have to carry her out the church. She was so tiny. But one day, we came home and she just laid on the floor. And we was tired, and I said, just leave her. Throw something on her. Just leave her. And all of a sudden, I heard something. I said, is she speaking in tongues? I called Lady Amber, my first lady. I said, here, listen. I put the phone to her mouth. And she said, Bishop, Deborah, she's speaking. And she stayed there for hours and hours. And I just believe God knew the right time to do it. Because it wasn't many days since, I think that was in July or August.
It was in August.
And in November, Janice started getting sick. And I believe if God did not save her, I don't know if she could have handled all that was going to happen. Because I mean, 12 years back and forth in the hospital is a lot of years. And Janice was even telling me a couple of months ago, it was a little girl in the hospital with her. And we were getting ready to go home that day. We had been there for weeks, and her parents were on the elevator. And we asked where their daughter was, because it's rare that they would leave her. You can finish the story, Janice.
I had made a friend, her name was Brianna, and I think I was like, I want to say like about to be 11, and she was one of the only kids. We were on the same ward, we was on the cancer ward together, and she didn't have cancer, but she had sickle cell, and then she had gotten pneumonia, and so I didn't see her. And we used to have like little classes in the hospital where like all of us would get together, and so she was always around, her parents were always around, and so was my mom always around, and we were finally getting to leave. I think I had been in the hospital for like, I want to say like a month or so, and they were in the hospital, and I was surprised they were leaving, like she said. And I just looked at them and I was like, "Where's Brianna? Is she getting to go home too?" And they just looked at me and said, "No." They said, "Brianna's gone." And I was just like, I don't understand. And Brianna had died, and that was I think that was the first time I realized that, like, besides me feeling like, oh, I realized like everybody around me was sicker than me. I thought I was the sickest person. I was the sickest person I had ever met. And I just realized like kids could die. And that was really rough for me. And I had another friend who I made there, and she passed away, I want to say like 8 years ago, probably even more than that, like 10 years ago. And on her birthday, every year, I still call her mother, or her mother calls me. And she says, "Janice, how are you feeling? What are the doctors saying?" And I met this lady when I was just in the hospital. Me and her daughter was just room by room. And she didn't even know I still spoke to Miss Elise.
But a few weeks ago.
I made myself remember, it's not as bad as it could be. Things like that always kept me in check, like God is keeping you all the time. And even when I had COVID at the beginning of last year, my breath sounds like my airway was locking up, and I only had 26%, and my heart was beating slower and everything, because I had gotten COVID and I couldn't fight it. And I was in the hospital for almost, I want to say 3.5 weeks with COVID. And then even once I went home, I still had COVID for another 4 months. And then it still affected me for 6 months on. It made all of my other illnesses act up. The doctor was just like, "Janice, we gonna have to you gotta work your way out of your system, because it done knocked everything off whack." And I just have to, all those type of moments make me remember, you are sick, but you're not where people thought you were gonna be. You have so much in your life, and I know that that's God. My uncle was the same thing she just said. My uncle was the first person that told me, "You know, you got the Holy Ghost right before you got sick." And I had never thought about that. I had been sick for years, but I was like, "You're right." Like, and I didn't know why I had this yearning, like why I felt like I needed it right then. And I was really young, and some of my friends had it, but not all of my friends, and it wasn't, but it just came over me, and I was like, I need to know him for myself. And I had to really learn how to, because she was praying for me, but I needed to pray for myself. I had to learn that me and God needed a relationship outside of church, outside of my mama, outside of 9 o'clock prayer with my siblings. I needed to have a relationship with him. Because if I didn't have it, she says that she don't know about me. I know I wouldn't have. Because there's been times where it's just me rolling on the floor, and it's just me and God, and and she'll be like, why you didn't come get me? And she can't help me. And I know that's the biggest thing, like, especially with my dad, I know he's always felt that, like, I can't fix my child. And I had to tell him, you're not supposed to fix me, because you're not God. Because my dad, I haven't talked about him a lot, but my dad, I see it in him. When he looks at me, and he just be like, I just want to because my dad is a mechanic and he's a handyman, and he used to being able to get in there and fix that. And I know that used to bother him when he couldn't fix. But when I told him, I said, you're not God, you can't fix me. And he just was like, you're right. And it was like a thing for me and him to both remember our place in the world, and that who God is, and that we weren't supposed to be trying to fix things, and that we needed to go back to relying on who made us. So my relationship with God it's my staple. It's my whole foundation. Because if I didn't have that, it wouldn't matter how much medication I took, how many doctor's appointments I had, because my upstairs would just be a no-go. I had to learn it for myself, and I had to learn it really, really young. But I got it now.
I don't even really know what else to say. I want this to encourage somebody.
I would like to say one more thing.
Come on.
I just want to, for anybody who has like siblings who are sick, my siblings are a really good example. Remember to laugh with your sibling. My family, we crack jokes, and and I knew that it was times when they were scared for me, but I always appreciated they were never scared of me, no matter how many times I was falling or screaming out in pain in the middle of the night. My siblings weren't scared of me. And use your humor to make your situation not as dire. My siblings, just because I was sick, nobody ever let me go away on a joke. My siblings have even reenacted what my spasms look like, because I have no idea what they were. Like so I just remember to treat remember your sibling is still a kid, still a human, don't just pat them and always, are you all right? Don't do that. To remember that it's still the good stuff in them. Remind them of those things. My siblings have always been a really good example of that. And I know other people look at me and my siblings and be like, they a little strange. They a little strange in the way they interact, but we're our own kind of strange. So I just really want to encourage other like sibling groups to just remember to laugh with your sibling. Don't just be the one that's all. You don't always have to be our caretaker just because we're sick. You can still just be our friend. It's really important to still be the friend of it, because I know that was a big thing that took a lot of guilt off me, is that I could see that they were still laughing with me. We were still a family, and my illness didn't weigh the household down. When you forget to laugh and forget to have family nights and joke and things like that, the child does end up feeling like, I'm bringing the whole mood down. My siblings have always been really good about that. And I want to shout out each of my siblings, from LaQuisha to Jasmine to Jeremy to CJ, Jada, Leah, Courtney, to Tiana, who's not here with me anymore, but she was a sick kid too. And I got to share that with her and show her how to make sure she could still know that she could live. She was a light for me, and she was my little sister. So she said, teach me how to do this. And I hope I did well, but she was amazing. And she said, you don't make me feel like I'm weird. And I was like, you're not weird, babe, because we could still laugh together. We could still play together. And because they had already did it with me, all of my siblings knew how to be able to take it, how to be able to bear to see it. Because it's a lot to be able to see somebody you love in pain. And I could see it mirrored in their eyes. But then I would look back again and they'd be like, I'm fine. Because if I was strong, then they were strong. But when they were strong, it made me stronger. So, yeah, that's all I want to say.
But Janice, she'll go in there in a minute and cut this off for you in a minute, but I'm gonna have my last little words. I guess I wanted to say, this was very therapeutic for me. One of my oldest daughters said, Mom, your audience needs to know who you are. I think I talk about myself a lot, but there's a lot of backstory. I'm God's chosen, but I haven't always felt like His chosen because there has been some hills to climb. But I'm built for this. My kids were built for what challenges we had. So to any family that is going through, you can make it. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. So, you guys, if you want to go back and watch, you can go on YouTube, Straight Talk Food for the Soul. You can go on my Straight Talk Food for the Soul Facebook page. You can go on my personal page, which is Minister Claudette Hutchinson. Straight Talk is going on the road at the end of the month. One of my former guests, Miss Pamela Bird, wrote a book. Her sister committed suicide, and she wrote a book in honor of her sister. So we are going to go to the book signing and we're going to interview her. I just believe that this ministry is what God wanted me to do. I didn't fight, I didn't kick, and I didn't scream. I want to thank Janice. Janice, cut your camera on for a second so you can just wave bye to the people. That's my biggest fan, Elijah Vines. Janice, we can't see you. We want you to say bye. You can't hear her, but you can see her. Janice is going to be the one. But if you want to get some merchandise, you want to get a t-shirt, you want to get a sweatshirt, a hat, a bag, you want to get your coffee mug, you can inbox me. I hope this is helping somebody. I hope somebody's going to get delivered tonight. I'm feeling a little freer. There's some things I could have done better, but I did the best I could as a parent. There's no book on being a parent. Sometimes you just got to ride the wave, and Jesus will bring you out. So I love you, Janice. Thank you for coming on, because this is not what you wanted to do. I had to coax her into this, and I asked her 2 months ago, and she said yes. Thank you for saying yes to the assignment, and thank you for being a great gift and a great life and a great light to our family. And we love you. And we're going to say this is another episode of Straight Talk Food for the Soul. We love you. Have a great weekend. Have great service on tomorrow. And we're going to say goodnight. And Janice is the one that's going to cut us off tonight. Love you guys. Have a great one.